the tale of a curious girl who wanders into a bear's cottage has enchanted children for generations. But what if the roots of this beloved story conceal a far more sinister truth? Behind its cozy, familiar facade lies a history steeped in violence, hidden meanings, and eerie connections to long-forgotten folklore. Let's begin by revisiting the version most familiar to us today, before we peel back the layers of deception to reveal the dark truth that lies beneath. In this video, we'll unravel the true origins of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, revealing a narrative far more chilling than you ever imagined. You're about to discover how the earliest versions of this tale featured an intruder who was child at all, but met a fate far more gruesome than a simple scolding. In the earliest known tellings of this tale, our protagonist was not an innocent child, but the truth behind Goldilocks has been buried for generations, hidden beneath layers of revision and reinterpretation. Until now, it represented a violation of sacred boundaries, a transgression against the natural world itself. In these older tellings, the consequences for such actions were far more severe than a frightened flight from an angry bear family. But an old crone, a wizened, decrepit woman who trespassed into the sacred home of beasts. The Three Bears weren't always the anthropomorphized, civilized creatures we know today. In earlier, harsher times, age was no protection against the consequences of one's actions. This golden-haired child, with her innocent curiosity, became a stand-in for the exploring, questioning nature of childhood itself. But in making this change, we lost the original moral of the story, that actions have consequences, regardless of one's age or intentions. But as society began to view childhood as a special, protected time of life, the story shifted to reflect this new perspective. The motif of three magical beings or objects is a common one in folklore, from the three fates of Greek mythology to the three wishes granted in countless fairy tales. Bears, with their human-like qualities and fearsome strength, have long been objects of both fear and reverence. We've moved from a world where nature was something to be feared and respected to one where it is often seen as a playground for human desires. We've shifted from viewing children as small adults, responsible for their actions, to seeing them as innocent beings in need of protection and guidance. Goldilocks faces no real consequences for her actions. She runs away, scared but unharmed, having learned little from her experience. The bears, despite their initial anger, are portrayed as ultimately harmless, from Bluebeard's forbidden chamber to the witch's gingerbread house in Hansel and Gretel. The act of entering a place where one doesn't belong often serves as the catalyst for the story's central conflict. The tale of Goldilocks and the Three Bears is just one example of how folklore evolves, adapting to reflect the values and fears of each new generation. In the dark woods of our world and our psyche, there are still places we shouldn't trespass, and consequences we may not be prepared to face. These are the stories that shaped our ancestors' understanding of the world, that taught lessons of survival and morality in a world far harsher than our own. The original story, with its harsh consequences and clear moral lessons, served as a warning. It taught respect for boundaries, both natural and social. It reminded us of our place in the natural order and the dangers of overstepping our bounds. In some traditions, they were seen as ancestors or spirit guides, bridging the gap between the human and natural worlds. The number 3 holds significance in many cultures, often representing balance, completion, or divine power. Behind every happily ever after, there might be a tale of terror, a lesson in survival, or a glimpse into the beliefs of a world long past. The truth is out there, buried in the pages of history, waiting for those brave enough to uncover it. The answer lies in the changing attitudes of society towards children, nature, and morality itself. The forest, once a place of mystery and danger, became something to be conquered and tamed. The bears, once symbols of nature's power, were anthropomorphized into a quaint family unit, more reminiscent of human neighbors than wild beasts. In earlier versions, they were wild, primal forces of nature, embodiments of the forest's raw power and the dangers that lurk in the shadows of the trees. Others see her impaled on the steeple of a church as she tries to escape, a bizarre fusion of pagan retribution. It's a liminal space, a threshold between the known world of human civilization and the unknown realm of nature and its spirits. By entering this space, the protagonist, be it old woman or young girl, is crossing a boundary that should not be crossed, setting in motion a chain of events that will test them and potentially bring about their doom, and Christian imagery that speaks to the story's evolution through different cultural lenses. This wasn't a story of childish exploration, but one of judgment, retribution, and the consequences of violating the natural order. We'll explore the possibility that the bears were once something far more monstrous than mere woodland creatures, and delve into the story's surprising ties to ancient myths and legends. This isn't just a simple fairy tale, it's a haunting journey through centuries of storytelling, evolving morality. One day, while wandering through the woods, she came upon a quaint little cottage. Being an inquisitive child, she decided to peek inside. The cottage belonged to 3 bears: Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear. They had gone out for a walk while their porridge cooled. Goldilocks, unaware of the cottage's owners, stepped inside. On the table, she saw 3 bowls of porridge. Feeling hungry, she decided to taste them, and the shadowy legacy of a tale that's been twisted and sanitized for modern audiences. But in 1837, a very different version of this story appeared in a children's book. It told of a girl who enters a house uninvited, eats food that isn't hers, and is nearly caught by 3 enormous bears. But here's where things take a dark turn. That wasn't even the original version. Once upon a time, there was a curious little girl named Goldilocks, who lived near the edge of a forest. This is the story we've all grown up with, a tale of innocent curiosity and mild mischief. The girl we know as Goldilocks wasn't always a girl at all. What began as a legend of divine judgment has been twisted and sanitized over centuries, becoming the bedtime story we tell our children today. As we dig deeper into the origins of this tale, we uncover a narrative steeped in pagan beliefs and ancient folklore. The old woman's intrusion into their domain wasn't just a simple act of trespassing. Some versions of the tale end with the old woman being torn apart by the bears, her fate a gruesome warning to those who would dare to disrespect the wild. But why was this story transformed from a cautionary tale of respect for nature and its dangers into a quaint story of a little girl's misadventure? As we moved away from our agrarian roots and into a more industrialized world, our relationship with nature changed. The transformation of the protagonist from an old woman to a young girl reflects changing attitudes towards age and innocence. The name Goldilocks itself is a relatively recent addition to the tale, first appearing in the late 19th century. As we peel back the layers of this tale, we find connections to other myths and legends from around the world. The bears themselves have roots in ancient bear cults and worship practices found in many northern cultures. The intrusion into a magical or forbidden space is another common theme in folklore. In the case of Goldilocks, the cottage in the woods represents more than just the bear's home. The evolution of the Goldilocks story from its dark, pagan roots to the cheerful children's tale we know today is a reflection of our own society. But in sanitizing this tale, in removing its teeth, have we lost something valuable? Today's version, while more palatable for young audiences, has lost much of this power. As we conclude our journey through the dark origins of this beloved tale, we're left with a question. What other stories have we sanitized, and what truths have we buried in the process? But beneath the surface of every fairy tale, every nursery rhyme, and every bedtime story, there often lies a darker truth. So the next time you hear a familiar children's story, remember, there may be more to it than meets the eye.